Hi, and welcome to Babes in Bookland. I'm your host, Alex Franca, and today my friend Lina and I are chatting about Ina Garten's memoir, Be Ready When the Luck Happens. Before we get into it, here's a review from Amazon by PC, a great new show highlighting the importance of women and their stories. Love the mix of book club and the host and friend's own stories. Loving it. And we love you. Thanks, PC. Let's get to the episode. Hi, Lina.
Hi, Alex.
Thank you for being here with me today.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
I know you're kind of an Ina superfan.
Oh, she's my queen.
What was it like for you reading her memoir then?
You know, you've got this idol and you think you know who they are and, you know, all these things about them. And then you read a memoir of theirs and you learn all this new stuff and you realize these things that you maybe didn't put together in the first place. So it was eye-opening. It was heartfelt. It was kind of sad at times. Someone who seems so happy on the outside kind of had a rough upbringing and really tough moments in their lives. Kind of a reminder you never really know the journey that someone's on or has been on. So yeah, it was a great read.
There's that quote, never meet your heroes, but I feel like it would be very safe to meet Ina Garten for you.
I think so. I think she and I would just be really good friends.
Happen, that's what we need to do.
I just really think that she and I would just bond over really yummy martinis and little aperitifs, and it would just be great.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought this book was a really cozy read. Ina's life has truly had some magical moments, but I was fascinated by her ability to dive head first into new and risky adventures, probably because I also am very much a look before you leap type person, which that's what she called herself. Her shrewd business sense helps guide her way, and she also seems to have a knack for surrounding herself with people who lift her up or help give her answers.
Absolutely.
Which is very helpful in life, including her very lovely husband, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
So was it luck or hard work? Probably a little bit of both.
You know, I think it was all hard work. I really do, because she didn't come from much. It's not like she came from wealth and had all these resources at her fingertips. She really had to assert herself in a time when it wasn't common for women to assert themselves,
Or acceptable, really.
Or acceptable or tolerate, right?
Yeah.
And so she really had to break down barriers. And she said it several times. When someone would tell her no, she doubled down and she worked hard for it. I think maybe not the only bit of luck that I kind of really thought of was Jeffrey. I think she lucked out in her partner because, again, in times when it wasn't really acceptable or tolerated for a woman to want to do her own thing and work and get an education, he was so progressive for his time and he really supported her 100%. So
I agree. Yeah, it's interesting. I think we'll get into it as we talk about her journey. You cannot take away the fact that this woman has worked hard her entire life and figured out the way to carve her own path as opposed to just doing it the way that other people had done it or the way she was told it had to be done.
Right.
I think for me, I count so many things as luck and blessings, the people that move in and out of your life. And I think she had people that she could very easily call upon during some of these instrumental moments in her life.
That's true.
That's maybe what I would consider lucky.
That's true. The things she couldn't control.
Yeah.
Coming in and out, like you said, people coming in and out of her life. And that's a good point. Yeah.
But we will circle back to this at the end of the episode and see if our opinions have changed.
Okay.
But the most important thing, like I said, I think, is that Ina did things her own way. And that's what has made all the difference. You're right. When she would sort of be tasked with a challenge or a problem or someone would tell her no, she was just like, I didn't take no for an answer. And here's how I made it work out for me. And I was like, this is just great for anybody to learn.
Yes. 100%.
Some negotiation tactics that she laid down, that she learned from her dad's. Okay, well, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
This book was released in 2024, so at the tail end of last year. And Ina does not have a dedication, but she includes this quote from her husband. Do what you love. If you love it, you'll be really good at it. Jeffrey Garten. Okay, so I like to start all the episodes off with some quick topics. You cook from Ina's cookbooks a lot.
Yes.
And I know you have a favorite recipe, but I also know that you adjust some of the things. How do you feel about that? I love looking at your cookbooks because you're so cute. You have your little notes and you're like, this is what doesn't work for me. This is what works for me. I feel like that would be 100% Ina approved. 100%.
I hope so, because I'm a little scared. My hands are sweating. Then what if she listens to this and she's like, who's adjusting my recipes that I've worked so hard on? No, I mean, and it's funny because I'll tell people, if you want an easy recipe, really look at one of her cookbooks. But I do. So my favorite recipe is her fried chicken sandwich.
Also my favorite recipe that Lina makes. Listeners, these things are bomb.
So good. So good. It's a lot of steps and it takes a lot of prep, but it's so worth it. And it's a hit every time I've made it.
Yes.
Her method is pretty foolproof. You can do it. I don't know that I've adjusted that recipe, but I've written notes like, oh, use this dredge for this, or put a liner underneath the tray for easier cleanup, that sort of thing.
So smart.
Not that recipe is perfected. I will not touch that one. But yes, a couple of her other recipes, I'll maybe increase the salt from half a teaspoon to a teaspoon because I like things on the saltier side.
That's true. Everyone's palate is different. And it's good to learn that for yourself. And I'm sure that, you're buying the cookbook, so really she can't have too much to say about it.
Yeah, she's got my money already, so what does it matter?
Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about Ina's philosophy. I have a couple of quotes later on in the episode, but really her biggest thing, which is really funny that you bring up this sort of time-consuming fried chicken recipe, but her biggest thing is easy meals that is really all about being able to be with your guests and have an easy dinner party that's all about the people as opposed to the food.
Yes.
But she also does talk about how presentation is really important to her. We'll touch on her time in Paris. That really seemed to shift everything for her.
Yeah.
But I know you are the hostess with the mostest.
Oh,
you love
gosh.
to gather people. What does that mean to you? Food and meals and friends.
It's memories created. Nobody's upset when they're eating a good meal.
That's true.
I mean,
so true.
Even Ina says it. There's this episode where she makes her cookies and her chocolate chip cookies, and she's like, you can be mad before having a cookie. You can be mad after having a cookie. You can't be mad while eating a cookie. It's just not possible.
This is also a parenting tip, people.
Yes.
Your child is having a tantrum, give them a cookie.
Give them a cookie.
Maybe the wrong piece of advice. I don't know.
That's all right.
If it works for you, it's fine.
Take it how you want. But no, it's love. And in many cases, it's culture, right? It's creating this tradition. And if you come from a family who's from another country, you can introduce these foods to your friends and loved ones. What a great way to tell a story or bring a shared memory to the table. And creating those traditions and those moments, those are the best times when you're sitting at a table with all your nearest and dearest. And whether it's your chosen family or your actual family, those are fun times, laughing and drinking and eating. That's my favorite thing to do.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
So the next quick topic, Ina writes this. My friend Erin French from the restaurant The Lost Kitchen in Maine once wrote, sometimes you have to trust the hard times. The pain and the tragedies in life have purpose. They will make no sense at the time, may bring you to your knees, and you will wonder why the hell this is happening, and if you'll ever get through it. But trust is your trajectory, sending you along your path. If you listen, learn, heal, and grow along the way, things will one day make sense.
It's true, isn't it? I mean, we've got this saying that everything happens for a reason. It's kind of one of my mantras. And there have been several moments in my life where I've really tried to abandon that mantra because I couldn't find the sense or the reason.
Because you hate it.
You hate it.
You can't figure out how this horrible thing can make sense. Yeah.
And for someone who, I wouldn't call myself a control freak, but I do like to, be able to navigate, as many parts of my life as I can. When you feel like you can't control or navigate a situation and it's so devastating, it hits hard and you want to abandon all reason and all sense and sensibility. And I think that quote is actually quite poignant for what's happening right now. There's so much turmoil and tragedy going on in the world. I hope one day we can make sense of it.
Yeah. I hope one day soon.
Yeah.
That's also the tricky part of this quote is how long do you have to trust?
Right.
How long is that your trajectory?
Yes.
Because it gets really taxing.
It does.
Just sitting and being like, all right.
Okay, another day.
Another day.
Here we go. Yeah, it does. It does. So, you hope to eventually see a light at the end of the tunnel. And maybe a month from now, a year from now, 10 years from now, we'll be able to say, okay, this went on because of X, Y, and Z. And, whether it's a personal thing or a global thing, you just hope that one day you'll learn the reason.
Yeah. And that it'll help you find peace.
Yes. Or maybe guide you for, the next thing that happens in your life.
Yeah. Or at the very least, just remind you that you are resilient and you are strong enough to have gotten through this thing.
Absolutely.
Even if that's it. That's your own silver lining. You
Yeah.
know? And I wanted to include this one. I did love this quote. And I thought that it was something that I do struggle with, this whole idea that everything happens for a reason. Because like you said, really, really horrible things, like bad things happen to really good people.
Yeah.
And I truly hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. And I hate that thing where it's like, well, everything happens for a reason. I just want to be like, no, fuck that.
Yes.
Honestly. Fuck it.
Yeah.
But I did love this quote. And I also really appreciated that Ina included her friend's words in her own memoir. And she tells other stories later on. Her show kind of develops into this interview type show. This is the more current show that she has.
Yeah. Be my guest.
And it isn't just like she felt compelled to share others' examples of resilience and strength.
Yes.
And I ate it all up.
Yeah.
Let's see how many food puns we can sneak into this episode. One drink every time Lina and I do a food pun.
Please, because I'm 8 months pregnant right now, so I can't drink. So please do it for me.
So last quick topic. We'll touch on this very, very quickly because it's time to deep dive into Ina's journey. But I loved that she took us on the journey of the steps of writing a memoir because often my authors do not. I love that she talked about reading old letters from Jeffrey and traveling to the places that meant a lot to her to see what that felt like viscerally inside of her body.
Yes.
And I do think, you spoke earlier about the memories that we make around food. And I think that maybe helped her out too, because she kind of has these moments in her life around food and tasting food and specific foods. And just like music, I think food can bring you right back to a place in time and a feeling.
Absolutely. I'm Lebanese, and my mom will make one of my favorite Lebanese dishes, and it's called mloukhiyeh. Please don't try and repeat.
We'll see what Apple Podcast transcripts tries to do with that, because it spells my last name all sorts of weird ways too. It's fine.
But it does every time I have it. It takes me back to, 1 year when I visited Lebanon for a whole month in the summer, and my aunts all knew that was my favorite dish. And so each one of them made it for me on a separate occasion.
Whose was best?
Oh my gosh. No, we're not doing that. No. My mom's.
There you go. Right.
My mom's is the best. And it does. And so, every time I smell it or even think about it, I'm transported back to my, my aunt's different houses and eating mloukhiyeh with them, my favorite dish, and just them knowing that it was my favorite and them taking the time out of their day to make it for me, each and every one. I mean, that's love.
That is love.
Yeah.
That's so cool. All right. Well, let's get into Ina's love of food and Jeffrey, because that's a big part of her memoir for sure.
Yeah.
Her childhood. We both kind of spoke about this in the intro. This was a complete surprise to me. Took me aback. Admittedly, I am not an Ina fan like you are. I definitely, I have all of her cookbooks. I have seen a few episodes of her show, but I'm more of an HGTV girl myself.
Fair.
As I feel like you knew. But what I did know of her sweet smile and her easygoing disposition, I just was not expecting for her to share that her formative years were really full of her parents belittling her, telling her that she would never amount to anything. But boy, did she prove them fucking wrong.
Yeah.
And we're going to drop the F-bomb today because Ina drops it 4 times in her memoir, and Lina listened to it. So you got to hear her say it, which is awesome.
Which was well worth it. I highly recommend doing the audiobook just so you can hear her drop the F-bomb. You
love it.
Wouldn't expect it.
Clearly, this is a reminder, like you said, that you never know what people have been through. And that also therapy is amazing because she does talk about a therapist who later seems to also become a very good friend, which I wonder how you navigate that situation, but that's fine. Who cares? As long as they're there for you.
Yeah.
So here are a few quotes from her memoir. She writes, "My parents had a my way or the highway approach to child rearing, and any attempts at noncompliance were met with pretty serious anger. Even questioning what they expected me to wear or when to do my homework were was totally unacceptable. She continues, we never saw eye to eye on anything. In fact, they expected very little from me and generally registered strong disapproval of any decision I made that was different from theirs. They were all about checking boxes and keeping up appearances, while I always ran as far from the box as possible in order to make my own way. How did your parents demonstrate your self-worth to you growing up? Because clearly Ina's gave her 0.
0. And which is so surprising because like you said, she seems like such a happy person and a cheerful disposition.
And I think she is.
And I think she is too.
And I think maybe her personality was always this way, the nature part, and she was able to hold on to it, nurture it, because her friends were there for her.
Her chosen family.
Her chosen family. But I mean, to have your parents say these things to you, I mean, that does create a voice inside your head.
Oh my gosh, does it ever? My parents were very big and still have always been big on education. So for me, it was never a matter of, who you're going to grow up to marry. Marriage was so far from my parents' radar for all of us. They had their first child in 1969. And it was my sister. And my sister has stories of instances where other families would try and set her up with their son, in like high school or whatever. And my parents were like, no, they're not interested.
That was not necessarily untypical of the time.
No,
right?
Not
so
at
your
all.
Parents were a little progressive with that.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
And especially for a girl. I mean, in our culture, in that time, now a lot's changed.
Were they in Lebanon at the time or were they in America?
No, they were here in the States. Yeah. So to them, education was first and foremost. You can do anything. The more you learn, the more doors open up for you. And the more you accomplish, the better your confidence is and the stronger your confidence is. And they always told us, you can do anything you put your mind to. They had their rules and they had their limitations and we were expected to respect that as well. But they really instilled in us that if someone tells you no, you try and figure out a way to fix it, overcome it, do what you can to get what you want.
That's wonderful. My parents were very similar and they always expected my best and the best that they knew I was capable of giving. Mm-hmm. So I do think that my parents encouraged me to be very ambitious but also gave me the confidence of knowing I could.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel really lucky because my parents just always made me feel loved. They always made me feel safe. They always made me feel like I could do anything.
Yes.
As a child, you assume that everybody's experience is yours.
Right.
Until you realize that it's not. Mm-hmm. But what a testament to overcoming that and being hella successful. Like this lady made it. Okay.
Yes.
Like, let's be real.
Yes. Because she could have so easily, fallen victim to that sort of mentality.
Just let their word be law.
Yes. Yeah. To that sort of, mental and emotional abuse that, just kind of going through life, feeling that way about yourself. That hurts my heart. And especially as a parent, because we tell our kids that they're the best things ever all the time, and so to say anything otherwise and complete opposite of that is heartbreaking.
I know. It's like, what were they thinking? You kind of understand that it seems like Ina's parents very much felt like they needed to bring children into the world, but didn't necessarily want to bring children into the world and whatever that meant. And so that's another heartbreaking realization. But it's just like, what do you really think you're accomplishing by telling someone that they suck, basically?
Yeah. And I think she even said that in the book. I think she even said, my parents should not have had children.
Yeah.
And it, kind of influenced her decision.
That's right.
Yeah. On whether or not to bring kids into this world.
You just said that you tell your babies that they're the best ever. I agree. They are. Do you feel like it's like a conscious choice that you make? Is there anything that you do where you're like, this is something that I am purposefully doing in order to create that voice inside their head, to instill their value and their worth to them?
Besides telling them that they're great and they can do it, I try and, if they ask me to help them with something, I try and tell them to do it first. You try first. And if you still can't do it, I'll come help you. Try and encourage that independence. But something that, thinking of this, kind of came to mind was I have this thing where if my daughter will come into the room and be like, Mama, have you seen my backpack? I'll say, well, no, it's your stuff. So you find it, or where did you leave it?
A sense of responsibility.
Exactly. Yeah. And accountability. They're your things. So you're responsible for them. Mama, can you grab my thing? She really needs me to. Obviously, I'll get it.
Yeah.
But, if she's not doing anything, well, no, you grab it.
Yeah.
It's your stuff.
We're working on that right now, too.
Yes.
I tried to put my daughter's water bottles on a lower cabinet so that she can be the one to fill up her water bottle in the morning.
Smart.
Small thing. She feeds the dog now. But do I often fill up her water bottle, Lina?
Oh, yes.
Yes, I do.
Yes, we do.
Do I catch my husband? The thing is, I catch my husband. He is wrapped around her cute little finger. And I get it. But I'm just like, you gotta let her have, because it instills confidence.
Yes.
And this sense of the team, the community. It isn't just us doing everything for them.
Yes, they've got a job.
Yeah.
Which if that job doesn't get done, then, catastrophe, bad things will happen. No, of course not. But it's true, because I did read a study once that was talking about how children who had chores or responsibilities around the house grew up to have more self-confidence, to be more ambitious, to really have a sense of, well, why can't I do it? You know? Yeah, I've got, they had this self-worth and this drive to do what they wanted to do. So
I love that. Let's try to find that study and we can link it in the show notes. That'd be awesome.
I will.
Alex here, popping in. Lina sent me the link and I just wanted to share a few things. This is from Inc.com from March of 2024. And the title of the article is, Want to Raise More Successful and Happier Kids? Harvard research says give them more chores. And it's an expert opinion by Jeff Hayden. And here's a great quote. As part of the 85 years and counting multi-generational Harvard study, researchers evaluated the backgrounds of over 700 high achievers and found a strong connection between doing household chores and later professional success. Kids who feel involved in shared responsibilities and who feel a part of a larger ecosystem derive a greater sense of self-worth. They also become able to see the needs of people around them and therefore more willing to help others. In short, they become less self-centered and they develop a better work ethic. All these things lead to better chances of career success, teamwork, empathy, work ethic, the willingness not just to lead, but also follow. Back to the episode. And a word that just came to mind as we were talking is also purpose. Mm-hmm. Even though it seems so silly, these are really minuscule things, right? But it gives you purpose. Yes. And I think that that's something that I always felt like I had purpose in my family and being a part of that team.
Yes.
I think that's something that's helped carry me through some really difficult career things in my life.
That's amazing.
Everybody wants to feel like there's a reason why they're here and that they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Yes.
Collectively, mm-hmm.
Yes, I do know. And I can relate because a couple of years ago, I actually felt like I hadn't fulfilled my purpose. Mm. And I got into a really low funk. I mean, I, would have these feelings of just, you didn't accomplish what you should have accomplished. You didn't reach your full potential. Just this little voice in my head, just telling me that I maybe didn't deserve the family that I have now. And my siblings are all quite accomplished in their careers and thriving and doing well. And I just felt like I had squandered my opportunities to be more than just a dental hygienist or be more than, just your average, girl. And those are, tough feelings to overcome. I sought therapy for it, and I can say now I came out the other side and, I'm not just a dental hygienist. I'm a really damn good dental hygienist. Yeah. And I've got...
You're not just a girl.
I'm not just a girl. I'm a woman, damn it.
Yes. And you're an incredible mother and you're a compassionate human being.
Thank you.
But you have to realize these things about yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And I do. I'm an incredibly empathetic person, and sometimes my empathy gets the better of me because I'll, be on social media and I'll break down crying because I'll see all these things that are happening.
Yeah.
But no, I think that deserves a spot in this world and in my family. And, I bring ideas to my husband that maybe he didn't think of because he's maybe not as empathetic as I am. So yeah, there is purpose for all of us. And finding that purpose is real. And it is a journey for sure.
And it's an important one.
Yeah.
Can I share something with you?
Please.
So I had my birthday around the time that I'm reading the book. And this was the first birthday that instead of looking forward and feeling hopeful about the future, I had a moment of being like, oh my God. Like, yes, I've been raising 2 children, but like my career has completely pivoted. You know, I've started this podcast as a creative outlet, but like it was just this panicky anxiety moment of just like, what am I doing with my life? Like, how long am I going to keep doing what I am like hoping to do with my life? And like, when am I, you know, just a lot of anxiety and pivoting. And I actually spoke with a therapist, but reading this book helped in such a way. One, it was a very cozy read, but also Ina completely pivots her career, which we'll get to in a second. And she kind of continues, she stays in like the food world, but she just continues to change what she wants to do, to challenge herself. She accomplishes things, yes, but then she's like, okay, what's next?
Yes.
And she's doing this at ages older than I am now. And I'm like, why do I feel like by my age, I'm supposed to have done all these things when you never know what opportunities are going to come our way in life? And the most limiting thought is feeling like I can't do it or like won't accomplish what I want to accomplish when that just makes me stay in a negative place and like feeling not confident when it's like, if I just stay hopeful or stay open and realize that like people pivot their careers and wonderful things happen to people in their 70s and 80s. Like who knows, you know? But yeah, it was really interesting that I read this book at the same time that I'm having this like, not quarter life, not midlife crisis, you know, but like, I guess just a life crisis. You know?
Yes.
It's like you do feel purposeful in so many ways, but like I totally relate with the career thing.
Yeah.
I mean, remember all the ways that you fucking rock.
Yes.
And be okay saying that,
yes, damn it. Yes. And not everyone's life journey has to be in a certain order, you know?
Yeah.
We discover new things and we start new chapters in our lives at different times that make sense to us and that work for our lives and our dynamic and our families. And that's what we need to remind ourselves. Comparison is the killer of joy, right?
Yes.
So we need to stop comparing ourselves to other people.
I love that you just said that because I totally said that phrase in a previous episode.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Bringing it back.
We're just going to keep hitting that home.
Yes. I love it.
And it's so true. It's so true. And Ina, she just kind of had the confidence to not compare herself and to do things her own way.
Love that.
And that's where she found her joy. And that's her memoir was such a good reminder of that too.
Yes.
That was sort of a beautiful tangent we went on. Getting back to her childhood, she writes this. We had all the accoutrements of a comfortable life, but for me, it was a dour experience. Every activity had to have a purpose. It couldn't just be for fun. She continues, in our house, my brother and I had one job, to excel academically, which meant that we spent most of our time alone in our rooms doing homework. We were raised as if we were only children, with little interaction between us. Neither of us remembers ever sitting in the other's bedrooms. And she also finishes with, and when we sat around the dinner table, we didn't have a conversation. We were quizzed on multiplication tables or state capitals, and inevitably, the daily question I dreaded the most from my father, what did you accomplish today? So it feels like Ina had to overcome some of these same things that you and I are chatting about.
But at a much, much younger age.
Yes, so true. I really think that that's where Jeffrey plays such a huge role in her life. And truly, you need cheerleaders to come in your life.
Oh, yeah.
You're told this one thing, and this person who becomes your teammate and partner is just like, you do whatever you love and you will do it and you will have a beautiful life. You're just like, oh, okay, I believe that now. It's so important to have those people.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It's about building that support, and that could come from just one person or it could come from a slew of people. Either way, finding that support, you can do anything and we've got you or I've got you. That is so monumental. And maybe, I don't know, I wonder if maybe Jeffrey hadn't come into her life at that point. Who knows? Because it is life-changing.
Yeah. Let's talk about Jeffrey.
Yeah.
So Ina is at Dartmouth to visit her brother. And there's a little bit more to this, which she really lays out in the book. But basically, she's been set up on this date with this boy. And she's like walking the grounds of Dartmouth. And Jeffrey's at the library. And he looks out the window at the exact moment Ina walks by. And he's like, who is that? Just so happens he is sitting at a table with the boy that Ina is supposed to go on a date on later that night. Date with later that night. And he's like, oh, that's Ina. That's, blah, blah, blah's sister. Sorry, I didn't write down her brother's name.
I think his name was Ken.
Ken. That's Ken's sister.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Jeffrey's like, what? You're going on a date with her later? You can't. There is something about this woman. I need her information.
Yeah.
Ina ends up going on the date with this other boy, but it's not good. You
Yeah.
know, they're like, we're better off as friends. And so Jeffrey asks for her address in order to write her because that's what they did back then. And it's so lovely and romantic.
Yes.
But Ina's like, excuse me, who are you? And who do you think just by writing to me, like, I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
But she is eventually won over and she goes on a date with Jeffrey and they have all these letters that they write back and forth before they meet up. And she points out that young people don't really write letters anymore.
No.
Which is so true and so sad. And I have old emails saved, which are cute, but they're not as like, do you ever realize this? You have a new friend in your life and suddenly you get a note from them and you're like, I did not know this is what your handwriting looked like. When we all knew what our friend's handwriting looked like back in the day.
Yeah.
Isn't that kind of weird to realize there are people in your life that maybe mean a bit, like a lot to you?
Yeah.
And you do not know what their handwriting looks like if they're left-handed or right-handed because we don't really necessarily write anymore.
Yeah, that's so true. I
It's
never really
trippy,
thought about
right?
it, but yeah, you're right.
I know. Just things to think about. She and Jeffrey get together and she pauses for a moment in her memoir to reflect on how fateful her and Jeffrey's union seemed to be, which we talked about. Maybe that was some luck there and how terrifying it was for her to realize that if anything had happened differently, if he had gone to the bathroom at the time she walked by the window, if she hadn't taken that route, it felt like fate.
It did.
I mean, what else could you call it?
Oh no, there's no other word for it. And yeah, that's why I say, I mean, I think that is luck, fate, destiny, whatever you want to call it.
She writes, fate had a pretty fragile grip on this precarious chain of events, like many events in my life, but somehow it all fell into place.
Love it.
So they eventually go on their first date, and it was so cute because she tries to impress him by suggesting that they go to a bar, but she's not 21, so she can't get in.
It's like this random bar that she had only heard of.
Yeah, they get there, and the guy's like, ID, please. And she's like, whoopsie. But it also showed Jeffrey's character right away because he was like, we'll find something else to do. She writes, he was an old soul in a young man's body. From my point of view, the combination was irresistible.
Oh,
I love it.
I know. I love it too.
So they continue dating as Ina graduates high school and starts college. And during Jeffrey's senior year, he suggests that they get married as they're eating sandwiches. And I was like, really, Jeffrey? Like, really? That's how you proposed? And Ina also is kind of like, she's very excited, but she's also like, really? That's how you proposed? Well, I guess that's how I proposed. It's fine. Very apropos that it's over food, I guess.
Yeah.
But she is only a sophomore in college, and she knows that her parents explicitly said that they didn't want her getting married until she was graduated. And so she's like, okay, how can I make this happen? And she writes about how her parents came to visit her, right? And her mother and father came in separately. And her mother comes in first and basically says, I don't want you to do this. I don't think you should do this. And Ina writes, this was the first time in my life I've ever said this to you, but I really don't care what you think. And then it was so funny because her dad comes in and he's like, way to go, Ina. This is the best thing you could have done. And she was totally taken aback because she was not expecting that at all.
Yeah.
If we were to put two and two together, he was probably a little happy to have Ina off his payroll and was like, yeah, this is what we always wanted. To raise a woman who would get married.
Yes.
Because
that's what you did in those times. Yeah. And it almost makes you wonder if her mother maybe secretly harbored maybe a little bit more ambition for her daughter,
didn't know how to communicate it.
Yes.
But was trying to be like, get
break
your
this
degree.
cycle. Yes. Get your degree. Don't just become a married woman and a homemaker. And
that's actually really sad to think about.
I wonder if that was her way of, of trying to break that cycle for her daughter.
Yeah.
But she just didn't have a better way of communicating that.
And luckily for Ina, Jeffrey really was this slam dunk of a partner who truly, I think, helped her reach her full potential because of his support and love.
Yes.
And confidence in her. But her mother didn't necessarily know that. They
Yeah.
knew he was a good guy.
Right.
But yeah, that is something really interesting to think about because she talks about sort of reconciling with her dad.
Yes.
But never really with her mother. Never having that conversation. Wow.
Yeah.
Making me think even after I've done my reading and outline. Okay, so Ina and Jeffrey get married and they go on their honeymoon. And then Ina has to go back to school to take her finals. I was like, what a world, right? Like, wow, I couldn't imagine.
I know,
But after
right?
that semester, she joins Jeffrey in North Carolina, where he's stationed at Fort Bragg. He had ended up going into the military in order to help pay for college. And so he had to complete his duty, I guess.
Service?
Yeah, his service. Besides going to college, there really isn't much else for her to do. She went from her parents' home to Jeffrey's home. So she was still trying to figure out who she was and what she wanted to do with her life. And she acknowledges that Jeffrey started, quote, bringing her up the way a good parent would have done. She writes, Jeffrey looked at me for a moment and said, you need to figure out what to do with your life or you won't be happy. He was telling me I was too smart not to do something with my life, which no one had ever said to me before. I thought getting married was what I was supposed to do, and I had done it. Instead, Jeffrey was inviting me to think about the future because he knew that at some point I would want more for myself. I often think that Jeffrey was the first feminist I knew. He believed a woman had as much potential as men, and I had a responsibility to myself to fulfill mine.
Love that.
I love this idea of like the responsibility to yourself. I feel that in my life.
Yes.
I do. So let's continue to see how Ina grew. She actually provides a few examples before we get to that of ways that women were held back during this time, which I thought were really interesting. So I wanted to share. One being that she wanted to learn how to play squash, but the entrances to the court were only through the men's locker room. So of course she and Jeffrey sneak herself through the men's locker room. Like, of course she's still going to figure out how to play squash. But I was like, what the hell? And then also at this point, she wanted to get her pilot's license. But remember they told her, they were like, we don't know anybody who wants to teach a girl.
Yes.
Not even calling her, which, okay, fine. I guess she's like 20, 21. Like, not yet a girl, not yet a woman.
Okay,
but like,
yes,
still,
we're in that phase.
It's one of those things when somebody calls you a girl, unless it's your girlfriend, be like,
Yeah.
hey girl, don't do that.
Yeah.
You know, I am post-pubescent, okay? And what does Ina do? She goes to the next town and she finds someone who will teach her how to fly. Did she like flying? No, but that's not the point.
Not the point. But she tried. She wanted to do it, so she did it.
Yeah, and she figured out a way to make it happen for herself.
Yes.
So that it was her decision and not life holding her back, or not even life, society, I guess, at the time.
Right.
Ugh. So Jeffrey has 1 year of deployment as a Green Beret, and he goes to Thailand, and she moves back in with her parents. I love doing this part of the memoir. She was like, what was I thinking? Like, why would I go back to the viper's nest? She's miserable.
Yeah.
But that year, she gets her degree and she's learning more about herself. And she writes, I knew I was the kind of person who jumped into situations. Leap before you look seemed to be my standard operating process. But I was learning that once I landed, I just might have the analytical skills to make it work, whatever it was. At this point in my life, I had no idea how I could use these skills in the real world or at a real job, but I was exercising intellectual muscles and figuring out my strengths and weaknesses, which was a good start. That's like all I could wish for my children.
Yes.
You don't maybe have to know what you want to do right when you graduate college, but just know that like you've got what it takes to figure it out
100%.
and you'll figure it out. So Jeffrey's year is up in Thailand, but his job doesn't start until the fall. So they decide to spend the summer in Europe.
Ugh, dream.
She writes, we could stay in Europe for 4 months if we kept to a budget of $5 a day. I know that sounds insane, but there was actually a very popular book at the time, Arthur Fromer's Europe on $5 a Day, that told us exactly how to do it. So this is in 1972, and according to Google, that would be just under $38 today, which would be difficult still.
It would be hard.
But they're like camping. They're not staying in hotels. They have this like bright orange tent and a little camper stove.
Yes.
The plan was not to have a plan, just to go to Europe and like go where their whims take them. And they set off. She writes about all their many adventures. But as the reader, you can tell that something really, really clicks for her in France.
Ugh.
She falls in love with the food and the culture, and Paris specifically. She gets real descriptive during this part. And I know you were listening to it, but like I got so hungry when I was reading this part of the book. She knows all the descriptive words to make your mouth water.
Oh my gosh.
And
yes.
you're kind of like, Ina,
Yeah.
calm down here.
Yeah.
Because I cannot go to Paris, France right now to these open air markets.
I know.
But luckily for us, I mean, times were so different, right? In the 70s, she talks about being introduced to all these cheeses and unpasteurized things and fresh fruit because that's not what was available in her grocery stores back home.
Right.
And now we're so lucky.
Yeah.
She writes, our experiences at the street markets taught me everything I needed to know about the importance of really good ingredients. Our meals that summer couldn't have been simpler or more casual, like a never-ending picnic, but each element was fresh and flavorful, and that's also when I began to understand that presentation was important too. I love me a good picnic. Dude, give me some crackers, some fresh fruit, and some cheese.
Is there anything better?
Their trip is over and they're back in DC, and Ina writes that she takes a job at the Federal Power Commission, but she doesn't remember much about it because it's so boring that she cannot recall. She moves on to be an analyst at NASDAQ, but what's really getting her through the days are the evenings when she gets to come home and try out a new recipe, mostly from Julia Child mastering the art of French cooking. She lands a job at the White House Office of Management and Budget, where her department analyzed pending legislation and recommended that the president sign or veto the bill. I didn't even know that this existed.
Yeah.
But that job was very disheartening. She writes, "Because my day job didn't satisfy my creative energy, I spent my weekends and evenings doing other things that made me happy and satisfied my need to develop my own skills. First and foremost, cooking was my after-hours therapy. And because that wasn't enough for me to do, really, I decided to buy an old house and renovate it. And for some reason, I decided that wasn't enough, so I enrolled in the graduate MBA program at George Washington University. Looking back now, I can't imagine how I did all that, but clearly I was searching for a career path besides the government." Ina is struggling with feeling independent in her marriage. She writes, "I've said before that Jeffrey brought me up as my parents have done such a dreadful job." That's putting it lightly. "They made me feel worthless and belittled, but Jeffrey gave me confidence and taught me how to be strong in the world. I was so grateful for that. But there was this sense in our marriage that he was the parent and I was the child." I can imagine that was very frustrating for her. And she also really wanted to buck the traditional roles. She writes, "I didn't like that it was assumed that I would make dinner, nor did I like it that it was assumed that Jeffrey would manage our finances and pay the bills. I thought these classic gender roles were annoying and unfair. I wasn't having it all. I was doing it all."
Mm-hmm.
I also love that she writes that too, because she likes to make dinner.
Yeah.
But that's not the point.
Right.
She writes that she tries to talk to him about how she feels, but he doesn't quite get it. So she's stewing in all of this as they decide that it's time to buy a house. They go to apply for a loan, and they're told that they don't have enough income to qualify for the loan that they want. And they're like, "Huh? Yeah, we do." And the banker's like, "Oh, no, we don't take your wife's income into consideration because she could get pregnant anytime and quit her job." Ina writes, "No matter my protests when it came to borrowing money, I was worthless. You actually don't exist on paper," the banker told me. "You have no credit history. There's nothing we can do," because all the credit cards are in Jeffrey's name.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, Jeffrey's father knew someone at the bank, so they are able to get the loan and buy the house. But she writes about going home and cutting up all the credit cards and saying, "There, Jeffrey doesn't get any credit history either." Which I kind of loved. I feel like that's something I would have done.
Totally.
And then it would have been like, "Oh no, we need a credit card. What did I do?" They buy this home, they renovate it, they eventually find another home, and she goes way more into detail in her memoir about all this. But when she finds this other home, it's a model home, and she writes that she walks in and she's like, "This is it, I want this home." And they're like, "No, we're not selling this one because we need to show this home to other people in order for them to buy in the development."
Right.
And Ina, not taking no for an answer, as we have already talked about, she comes up with a solution that benefits everyone. She says, "Well, how about if I buy the home, but I stage it so you can still have people come through? Now you're not having to sit on this house, win-win for everyone." She writes, "When someone says no to me, that gets my creative juices going," which is an exciting place to be in life. If you see no's as temporary challenges as opposed to the be-all, end-all, sometimes a no is a no and there isn't a way to work around it.
Sure.
But often, as Ina's memoir proved to me, there is a way to still get what you want. You just have to think about how that person also gets what they want.
Yes.
That's the key.
Yes. And I really love that she talked about that several times.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is a way that everyone leaves happy.
Yeah.
And it's not all about me. This is the empath in me, right? Let's see what maybe they would want too, and see how we can compromise and work out something so that everyone's happy.
If only everyone thought this way.
Gosh,
what if we could all win?
What a concept.
Why does someone have to lose?
It's a man's world.
So she's learning a valuable lesson here. She writes, "Whenever I took on the renovation of a house, I was proving to myself that I was capable and that change was possible." I love that she's able to go back and reflect on these moments like, okay, this is what led me to feel this way about myself. This is what led me to think that. It's a really beautiful idea to be able to sit back at any point in your life. And we could do it now. We're not Ina's age. Women write memoirs all the time. But when do you really sit back in your life and you reflect? Like when I asked you about the first meal that you cooked for your husband, you were like, "Oh my God, yeah." And it brought, like a smile to your face. And, yes, it's not always good to look back and think about the what ifs and get dredged down by that and the decisions that you didn't make or the things that didn't go your way. But do we look back and think about all the ways that things went right? I wonder. I feel like I don't.
No.
Not as often as I should.
Not as often as I should. And it's kind of along the lines of, being grateful for what you have.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. And let's also look at all the ways that things have gone right or they've gone our way.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really should.
Something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
This idea that change is possible and that she's capable will come in handy soon because things are still not good at work. She feels like she's a hamster on a wheel. She writes, "How long could I keep up this race to nowhere? I was turning 30 and still trying to figure out who I wanted to be." And she writes about finding this book, Passages, by Gail Sheehy, which helps her feel less alone in her predicament. That other women were experiencing the same confusion, making the same mistakes, and choosing to make big changes when they hit 30. More important, I realized that I hadn't been wasting my time when I worked at jobs that were so unsatisfying. I was simply doing research, and now I just needed to decide my path forward. It's just like thinking about things on different terms. Like, oh, look at all these ways that I've been floundering, or like I didn't know what I was doing and I've just been like aimlessly walking this path, or I've been working dead end jobs. No, hold on a second. I was building skills. I was feeling more capable, feeling more confident.
And kind of paving your way to realizing what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah.
Because how are you going to know unless you have these experiences?
Switching that idea from like limiting thoughts to like unlimiting thoughts. This is where Ina finally finds food as a career path. So she sees an ad in the business opportunities section of the New York Times advertising a gourmet food shop for sale in the Hamptons. It's called Barefoot Contessa. In the ad, it claimed one could, quote, gross 6 figures in the summer alone. And this was a luck moment for me and for Ina because she writes about how she never even looked at this section of the newspaper before. And she just so happens to look on this day.
Yeah.
So Ina is like, yes, this is calling to me, but also hold up, because Jeffrey and I are living in DC, not exactly next door to the Hamptons. And also, what do I know about running a business? But Jeffrey, he's like, Ina, let's go. Let's go check it out.
What a stud.
I know. So they get there. Ina writes, there was one employee who was taking care of absolutely no customers. To be fair, it was wintertime. But she was baking big chocolate chip cookies. Instantly, the scent triggered a rush of good feelings, like endorphins or steroids. And my first thought was, I need to be here. Standing in this adorable little place named after an Ava Gardner movie. It's about being elegant and earthy. Surrounded by beautiful baked goods, gorgeous prepared salads, and ripe exotic cheeses, I experienced a true Ruby Slippers moment. I felt as if I had clicked my heels and finally come home.
I love that. It also made me hungry.
Right? I know. I'm like, damn. The asking price is $25,000 and she and Jeffrey offer $20,000. Diana, the owner, accepts. Ina writes, I remember sitting there stunned thinking, oh shit, I just bought a specialty food store. So great.
She's so cute.
All right. It is not smooth sailing, but Ina is very smart because she hires the previous owner, Diana, to work with her for a month and kind of show her the ropes. Obviously, Diana had a successful store. Ina makes her adjustments. She writes all about the ways that she tweaked the business, some mistakes she learned along the way, the wonderful people she employed who made her job easier, some who made it harder, like the guy who was stealing from her.
Oh my gosh.
And was so nonchalant about it when she addressed it. That was kind of funny. We learned about the grueling amount of time and energy that it takes to make a place like this work.
Yes.
How the store would be closed on Wednesdays and she'd have to get up at the crack of dawn to drive into New York, go to all the food suppliers. It's exhausting. And so pretty quickly into starting the store, things with Jeffrey get on shakier ground, in Ina's opinion. He still has his job in DC and she's inundated with keeping her business going. She writes, I suspected he saw Barefoot Contessa as my summer job and thought that when the store was closed in September, we'd go back to our old life in Washington and the roles that went with it. It wasn't the stupid chores that bothered me. It was the feeling that I wasn't an equal partner in our marriage. I couldn't let that happen. The other problem was that when Jeffrey came on weekends, he was a distraction. I just wanted everyone to leave me alone so I could concentrate on the store. Jeffrey was fully formed and living the life he wanted to live. I wasn't, and I wouldn't be able to figure out who I was or what I wanted unless I was on my own. I needed that freedom. So her mind goes to divorce, but she has a conversation with Jeffrey explaining herself and her feelings. She writes, he listened quietly, thinking about my words and processing their meaning. In true Jeffrey form, he said, if you feel like you need to be on your own, you need to do it. She writes, I needed to find myself, but was I really ready to lose him in the process? Who was I without Jeffrey? I was about to find out. I buried my emotions and threw myself into work, and just like that, I was alone. So they decide to separate, and she writes about how she had never really disclosed this story before, and that she was very aware that like her and Jeffrey were hashtag relationship goals.
Right.
But she felt like it was important. And I think it is. I think she went from her father's house to her husband's house, as she said, and she's finding out who she is and found something that like sets her heart on fire in a different way than her relationship with her husband does.
Right.
This thing that gives her this purpose, and it's creative and it's fulfilling. It's all the things that she's been dreaming of that he gave her permission to explore. He loved her so much that he was willing to let her go and be happy.
Yeah.
Jeffrey.
I know.
Jeffrey, you are a man among men.
Yes. I agree with Ina. I mean, going back to what she had said and what you brought up, that she and Jeffrey are relationship goals. And, I think people, they see the perfect, right?
Yeah.
And they see, look how happy they are. And they've been married for how many years? And
A lot. Yeah.
So many years. And they still love each other. I mean, he comes into her, like when you watch an episode of one of her shows, when he comes in, they can't keep their hands off each other. It's so cute. They're always touching. I mean, it's so sweet. So to hear her talk about how they went through a really rough patch.
Potentially the end.
Yeah. Not because they didn't love each other.
Yeah.
But because, I mean, she was really ready and willing to
Put herself
first.
Yeah.
I think we need to do more of that, I mean, and I think that's okay sometimes to say, this is what I need to do.
And allow other people to rise to the occasion, because that's what he did.
Yes.
She talks to him about these traditional roles she wants to buck, and that she feels like he's conditioned to think this certain way, and he agrees to go to therapy.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, until you have these conversations, if you don't have these conversations, that's where resentment happens.
Yes.
And resentment is this thing that is so hard to root out.
Yeah, if you let it grow
And fester. Yeah.
Absolutely. Exactly what you said. She gave him the opportunity to rise to the occasion, to be the support that she needed. And he also gave her the opportunity to be who she wanted to be.
Yeah.
That freedom. I just think that is so important that she shared that. I mean, that's just so incredible.
I'm sure it blew quite a few people's minds.
Yeah.
And also maybe had them reflect on like expectations that they put on themselves and on their partner and on their relationships.
Yeah.
Because a true partnership is one where everybody is happy and everybody feels valued and seen.
Yeah.
And she also writes this, which I thought was really interesting. She writes, for the first time, I didn't have to worry about whether Jeffrey was happy. And I mean, that's a really big part of a partnership. It's like you do feel responsible for someone else's happiness.
Yeah.
It can be a weight sometimes. And you have to navigate
Can
that.
be daunting.
And
Yes.
how do you and your husband manage your bumps in the road?
So Andrew is a much better, I don't want to say communicator. We're both good at communicating. He is much better at saying, let's talk about this. I hear you. And this is where I'm coming from is I think really it was really monumental for us, because then it shows that, okay, I'm actively listening to you and this is why you're upset. Okay, now let me tell you where I'm coming from and why I'm upset.
I recently discovered to also say, I hear you and this is what I'm hearing.
Ooh.
Because then you really are repeating back to them and saying, am I hearing?
Yes.
Am I picking up what you're putting down, or am I missing something?
Brilliant.
Back to Ina.
Okay.
She's miserable without Jeffrey, but she knows it's for the best. She writes, I remain convinced that I needed to figure out who I was on my own before I could be an equal partner with him. And frankly, he needed to do the same thing. She writes that first summer with Barefoot was like a trial by fire, and she came out on the other side transformed, confident. Quote, I couldn't go back to the way we were when my sense of self was so dependent on being his wife. He agrees to go to therapy. They reconnect and move forward together. She writes this, a therapist many years later told me her theory of marriage. When you're young, you marry someone who has the qualities you wish you had. As you grow older, one of two things happens. Either you start to find those differences increasingly annoying and you grow apart, or, and this is what is happening to us, Ina and Jeffrey, you gradually become more like each other even as you remain who you are. I read this and I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Like, do you ever catch yourself doing something or saying something, you're like, oh my God, I am Andrew right now?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So when Andrew and I first met, I very much enjoyed spending money, and I still do. I mean, I love shopping. It's fun. It's cathartic, and not just for me, but I love giving gifts. That's one of my love languages is giving gifts.
Me too. Yes.
And so even, just the silliest thing of grocery shopping, looking at the what's the cost breakdown? Should I get this value pack or this value pack? And the generic versus the brand name. Before, I would just be like, oh, brand name. And I would throw it in. Or, oh, it's on sale. I'll just, grab it and throw it in. Even though it might be a lesser quantity, it's on sale. Whereas Andrew's like, he's such a numbers guy and he's such a money guy and it's his finance background. Yeah. So he, has taught me to look at the price tag.
But yeah. So you're starting to see the world through his eyes a little bit.
So I do. I see that little finance in me, and then I get upset when something goes on sale the day after I bought it.
Oh, whereas, yeah. Well, I mean, we all do that.
Yeah, we all do. We all do. I know. But now I will actually go back and be like, I want a price adjustment, and I won't take no for an answer.
Good for you.
We were talking about being equals, and I started scrolling through my phone because I actually screenshot a poem that I felt was appropriate.
I love that. Please read it.
Yeah. So it's by Rupi Kaur. It's Kaur.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but
yes.
It says, I do not want to have you to fill the empty parts of me. I want to be full on my own. I want to be so complete I could light a whole city, and then I want to have you because the two of us combined could set it on fire.
I love that.
I love that. I screenshot it, I favorited it, and I feel that's exactly what Ina wanted.
Yeah.
And what she achieved ultimately.
Yeah.
And I feel like that should be the goal of all couples.
Yes.
I want to be complete on my own. I want to be happy with myself. And then I want you to do the same so that together we can set this place on fire.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so great. I feel the exact same way. Okay, so back to food. The food landscape in America is changing, much to Ina's delight. Fresh, new ingredients, simple but bold recipes, new philosophies. She's fine-tuning her own take on the culinary world. She writes, one thing I learned and continue to learn every day is that the food we enjoy most connects us to our deepest memories of when we felt happy, comfortable, nurtured. I wanted to recreate those nostalgic sensations with fresher ingredients and make them even better than remembered. The good vanilla.
Yeah, good vanilla.
Okay, so we can't cover everything in detail, like I said, but she opens up a second Barefoot location, and it's bigger, it's better, all while commuting to Tokyo to see Jeffrey, who had taken a job there. Honestly, her life sounds so exhausting, and I'm like, you had no room for children. Like, I get it.
I know,
Like,
totally.
You wouldn't have been able to do this.
Yes.
You just wouldn't have.
No.
You would have done other great, amazing things, but not this.
Right.
Then she decides that running 2 stores is too much, and she sells the original Barefoot. And then ultimately, she decides to sell the second one because she got burnt out, and also she felt like she was on autopilot. What she had loved was overshadowed by what she did not love, which I thought was such a wonderful place to like check in with your life. Like, is this thing that I think that I'm doing, that I think I'm supposed to be doing, this thing that I've loved, are the things that I don't love about it overshadowing? And she was looking for something to start that spark inside her once more. And it was time again for her to figure out what she wants to do. And she decides, you know what? I'm going to try and write a cookbook. Throughout the rest of the memoir, Ina goes into more detail about her process of creating her cookbooks and the show, which we've talked a little bit about, and also purchasing and renovating her dream Paris apartment. She includes funny anecdotes and celebrity encounters. And the one thing that really struck me was how confident she was to do things her way. She had her own brand. It was more casual, more comfortable. And when people tried to tell her, well, this is how it's done, she was basically like, maybe, until I came along.
Yeah.
She writes, for me, cooking wasn't the goal of entertaining. Being with friends was the goal. So I wanted to make recipes that anyone could prepare and know their guests were delighted. And she consistently proved people wrong, even as she was still struggling with this inner voice that, her parents had created for her, asking her what makes her think she can do this. For example, she was adamant about the look and feel for her cookbook, more real, less staged. She writes, Barefoot was an outlier. At the time, best-selling cookbooks were Bibles that had hundreds of recipes, how to cook everything. Basically like a Cheesecake Factory menu, with 0 photographs. Barefoot had 75 recipes and full-page photographs. Also, the pictures in recipe books are everything.
Yes.
I kind of can't believe that they used to not include those.
Yeah.
But I do. I have some of my grandmother's old recipes, and they're just...
Yep.
In like
little
typewriter.
index cards.
Yes.
Yeah. Or do you remember that like Betty Crocker book? It was like red and white.
Yes.
And every mom had one.
Yes.
If my mom had one. And yeah, there were like hardly any pictures. And if there were, they were itty bitty, black and white.
Like, how are you supposed to know what it's supposed to look like? I'm a visual person, so I need pictures.
Yes.
Her publishers were like, fine, we'll print 10,000 copies of your cookbook, but you have to put half in your store. She's like, okay. She bets on herself. And later she's like going to write an $85,000 check, because that's how much half of the cookbooks cost. And within a couple of days, they call her and they're like, we need those back because your cookbook has flown off the shelves.
Yeah.
I love these ways where she gives us the challenge. She says how she did it her way. And then she's like proven right.
Yeah.
I love it. I love a good like redemption
Same.
story.
Oh, same.
I'm into it. There's another story involving the creation of her show. It's everything that Ina isn't. They're trying to make it everything that Ina isn't. Basically a repeat of Martha's show, which we said. She gets handed scripts at the beginning. And she's like, yeah, I don't know what you want me to do with this. I'm just going to talk as I cook. And they're like, she wants to try her food on camera. And they're like, no, we don't do that. Production takes over her home.
Yeah.
It's all when I was reading this part, I was like, oh, this just seems so overwhelming.
Yes.
Is it worth it? That's probably the question she kept asking herself. Is it worth it? It's not a good experience and she doesn't want to continue, but Eileen Opatut at Food Network sees something in her, telling Ina that she loved when Ina took a bite on camera. That was the thing where she was like, oh, you're different, you know? Ina's still unsure. She doesn't want to get involved in something that doesn't feel authentic to who she is. But after meeting with the other producers, and I love that she makes a point that they're British because it just feels like they have like a slightly different philosophy about how to do things over there.
Right.
Hello, Bake Off. And she gets on board and has more creative control. She ends up building this set studio 2,000 square foot kitchen in her backyard because she ends up convincing her neighbor to sell her the house even before he's like ready to do it. Like she has all these things where she's like, I have a master plan and I am going to move the chess pieces in line. I feel like her book was just such a lesson in staying true to yourself. And it can be really tempting to copy somebody else's success because it feels like a guideline or a template. Like they were successful doing this. Why don't I just do that? But I do ultimately feel like in this world, even though we have a new Marvel movie every 2 weeks, people appreciate and want originality.
Yeah.
They want it. They're in desperate need for it. I really do think so. She writes a lot about how meticulous she is with her recipes, like she said, approaching them like a scientist. And she has a lot of cookbooks. I was curious as a reader and as a fan, like how does she keep coming up with content?
Right. And it's a lot of content too.
It's a lot of content.
Yes.
But she writes, ideas come from everywhere. A recipe I'd seen in a magazine, dinner we'd had at a restaurant, a new ingredient like sriracha.
Yeah.
She was like,
I know, she's so cute.
I love to base recipes on remembered flavors. So that's pretty much Ina's memoir. Like I said, she really does go into like the celebrity part of her life a lot more, but we don't have time for that today. And I don't know. I thought that the beginning of her life was just so interesting and sparked a lot of awesome conversations.
Oh my gosh.
With you.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
But I want to circle back. Was it luck? She wrote that Jeffrey had told her this, you never know your good breaks from the bad ones. That comes up a few times in her memoir, right? And then she'll kind of maybe give an example of what seemed like a bad break, but then ended up being a good one. And it actually reminded me of this story. And I know you watch Bluey just like me, so I'm sure you've seen this episode. And it's about the son breaks his leg.
Yes.
Right? And his neighbors are like, oh, what bad luck.
Yeah.
And the father's like, we'll see. And then they come to draft people
him
for
into
the
the army.
but they don't take him because his leg is broken. And then the neighbors are like, oh, what good luck. And the father's just like, we'll see.
Yeah.
It goes into more depth in Bluey, the whole story. But I love that.
I love that too. I think it does kind of remind you, to just say, well, okay, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, don't make any snap judgments
Don't
yet.
go to the bad place.
Don't go to a bad place. Let's see how it pans out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like it too. And it is a little bit hard because sometimes you want to know. I want to know. What's next? What's going to come of this?
Yeah.
But sometimes you just have to trust and have that little bit of faith.
Yeah.
And, okay, let's see.
We'll see.
Yeah.
She kind of concludes the memoir with, she was talking to Oprah, and she tells Oprah that she thinks she's been really lucky. And Oprah like smacks her and is like, that's not luck, that's hard work.
Yeah.
But Ina kind of comes to the conclusion that it is hard work and luck. Like, yes, you cannot take away, like I said, the fact that this woman has worked hard. She has navigated the puzzle pieces to like create the picture that she wanted. Mm-hmm. But some things worked out really well for her.
Yes. I do think those good things and maybe that good luck did come a little bit later. It's like you said, you don't want to take away from her hard work. I feel like when I was thinking about prepping for today and I was thinking about, is it good luck or is it her hard work? I feel like in so many instances back in her generation and even ours today, it would be not even a thought if she were a man and they would say, oh, it's hard work. He did this. He created his own luck.
Interesting.
And he put in the time and the effort and he came from nothing and look at this empire he's built.
Yeah.
I just wish more women would do the same.
So do you feel though that luck negates success in a way?
Honestly,
because it's tricky.
It's tricky. I think it depends on the situation.
Okay.
Kylie Jenner, she was lucky enough to be born in a very well-known, wealthy family.
With a very ambitious mother and a sister who got lucky to have a sex tape leak.
Yeah.
Like it's all just kind of like, interesting.
A little suspect now. No, but I mean, really, yeah, very ambitious mother.
I know, but in that way, couldn't you say that we're all lucky if you're born in the United States of a certain privilege? I mean, Ina wasn't poor.
Right.
She went to college.
Right.
Her brother went to Dartmouth. Like,
right.
That's what I'm saying. It's kind of like, where does it stop?
I know. But she did grow up in a generation in a time when women went to college to find a husband. But that wasn't enough for her. Yeah. And so she broke these barriers and she ran with it.
I know.
It is. I know.
But it's like, why did she read the newspaper that day?
Yeah. Oh, so like I said,
yeah.
I mean, her meeting Jeffrey or Jeffrey seeing her from the library that one day, that was luck. Her looking in the newspaper that day, that was luck. And then, I feel like as she gained more resources and more of a reputation and more of a notoriety, then, maybe
Doors opened.
Of
course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
But she also, when she did reach out to people for help, like she was the type of person that people wanted to help. And
Absolutely.
So that's character.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I had an acting coach say that luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Ooh.
And I really like that because it feels
that.
like there is something you can do.
Yes.
But the opportunity also has to come your way.
Yes.
Do we all need to work hard in life? Yes. But do I think people also maybe need a couple of breaks?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Everyone deserves a break every once in a while.
Yeah. Okay, so I like to finish each episode with a quote that didn't quite fit into the context as we were discussing. There's just one. Ina writes, I always say that you can't be inspired sitting at home alone by yourself. You have to go out into the world and see what people are doing, and that will trigger something else in you, and then you'll do it your way. I just love that because she's just so right. Mm-hmm. We can all inspire each other and life is beautiful, but you have to go out there and you have to explore it.
Yeah. You've got to create it.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. That's Ina Garten's memoir. Be ready when the luck happens.
So good.
I think in the end, it's just a memoir about a woman who thrived on challenging herself and who stayed true to herself.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
She was ready when the luck happened.
Yes.
And she had some great people to help her along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm hungry.
Oh my gosh, me too. I'm always hungry.
Okay. Thank you, Lina, so much for talking about this book with me today.
Yes.
I had a lot of fun.
I had so much fun. Thank you for having me.
Of course. We'll have you on again soon, but let's go get some food.
Sounds good.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Babes in Bookland. To access the full version of this episode, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or support us on Patreon. Visit babesinbookland.com for more information.